Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Eric Dunbach here at the Coach's Coach. Welcome, everybody, to our call today, the top trends impacting the business coaching industry in 2012 and what you should do about them. And obviously, this is episode number 4 in what is turning out to be one of our most popular series ever. People are really, really enjoying this stuff, and I'm not surprised. We have had some great presenters. And I got to say, the pressure is rising a little bit, Paul, here at the end of the week. Welcome to the call, Paul Avins.
Good evening. Well, pressure always brings out the best in us, Eric, as long as it's positive pressure, as we know. I'm not sure, fine. Hey, look, we're all unique personalities, so the only pressure I have is to be myself. So there we go.
That's right. And you are great. This is going to be a good call today. Listen, before we get going, everybody, do me a favor, type me a chat or give me a question just so I can know you can hear us. Good, thank you. They're telling us they can hear us, which is good. So before we get into the questions, Paul, how was your year, 2011? How was it?
Wow, how was my year? Well, that's an interesting question, actually. And first of all, thank you for asking me, and thank you for inviting me to be on this call. It's a real privilege to be here this evening. So, yeah, very excited about that. Yeah, it's been a pretty kind of wild ride. We had a meeting today actually with our team of mentors, and we were actually just funny enough. We went through what have we achieved this year alone, and we've doubled. We've had an amazing year. Really doubled the number of clubs, active clubs we had in the UK. Passed a couple of active club milestones in terms of members in it. Ran 2 of our biggest ever live events at a time when apparently you can't fill live events. We did 2 back-to-back and did that, which is just brilliant, which is great. We had a social media roadshow for a corporate client this year. It's been fantastic. We launched a piece of software. Crikey, God, we exhibited at one of the biggest trade shows in the country, and and we just recently had a phenomenal awards dinner where we celebrated the success of all of our members. So yeah, it's in clients, and you know what? I looked at this and I went, no wonder I feel slightly tired getting towards the end of the year. And I've had more time off this year, like you, and I've celebrated my 40th birthday with my my wonderful wife and son, and we took a trip out to Disneyland. And frankly, it's amazing we made it back at all, because I think my son was ready to move me in. Mickey Mouse. So yeah, it's been a hell of a year. So lots of great stuff, and growing has its own set of unique opportunities to learn more about yourself and business. So that's been good. So yeah, it's been a good year, and obviously published my 2nd book. So that's very exciting. Yeah. So getting that done it's been a good year.
Man. Well, it'd be fascinating to see what you could achieve if you were going through a year actually awake and trying hard, Paul. For goodness sake.
I thought that. I thought, what would I do? What could we pull off if we took this seriously? I often wonder that question. If I actually was committed to the cause and took it seriously, where would we be? I mean, it's I don't know.
Oh man. Okay. Well, listen. I'm going to try to take a couple swipes at you, so just be ready, because you've been training me in British humor now for many years. Paul and I have known each other for a long time. And he's the much better for it, and but he's been trying to teach me how to have some British humor, which is where you take swipe at guys and never even crack a smile. My problem is I keep laughing. But anyway, we're going to have a little fun.
Yeah, the challenge is most of the time you don't realize I'm taking a swipe at you, Eric, so it's not quite as funny for you as it is for me, but there we go.
I know. My head's
we'll try and keep it all I'll aim not to do too much of the Simon Cowell, nasty side of me today, which the Brits are typically associated with. I'll demonstrate occasionally we have wit, humor, and other things other than just we're the nasty ones.
Yeah, that's right. Just remember that you're on the call with the slow American, and we'll all be good. This is good. Okay. Well, so let's get underway before we bore people. Hey, we're talking about the top trends impacting the business coaching industry in 2012 and what everybody should do about them. And so but before we talk about the new year, just for people who don't know you, what was your career about before business coaching? How'd you get into business coaching? And you should certainly along the way tell them how much I taught you in the process. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, you want me to make you look good, right? Is that the objective of this session?
It would be nice for a change if you would. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, just to give everybody a sort of a very brief overview, I kind of, I'm an unusual character in that I'm a typical entrepreneur first, business coach second. So, classic story of written off at school, wasn't diagnosed until I was dyslexic until I was about 14, drops out of education, Started my first business at 19, went on to have varying degrees of success with about 5 different businesses before really getting turned on to personal development and the kind of idea that actually if you could take strategies and learn them from people who've been there, done it, and essentially model them, you could get to where you wanted to go a hell of a lot faster. So for me, the kind of mentors and people who changed my life at that particular point in time were the likes of Tony Robbins. I did all Mastery University courses, Date with Destiny, Life Mastery, stuff like that. That changed my perspective on who I was, and I firmly believe I got into this industry to fix me, fundamentally. I was not happy with who I was, and had a lot of questions I was trying to answer, and I think we get attracted to this industry, in my experience, if we have stuff we're also trying to work through. So that was mine. Tony Robbins helped to that. I then went on to study Jay Abraham and Peter Thompson over in the UK, which was pretty cool, and I teamed up with 3 other guys at an event, funnily enough, which is why you should always go to events, because you meet amazing people at events you do deals with and stuff. We raised £5 million of venture capital, started a business, and in I think it was about the following 18-24 months, took it to, I'll put it in dollars, $35 million turnover business. So revenue business, and very exciting. And then sold out.
Thank you for acknowledging the global currency. Appreciate that.
There you go. Well, I'll acknowledge it while it still exists, right? I mean, why not? So anyway, so we did that, which is great fun. Built the business up, became very successful at an age when I had no real, it was way beyond what I thought I could achieve. And it got to a point in my life where life was great, and I didn't really have any goals or aspirations or anything to do, so ended up becoming an investor because I was advised that that's what people with money did. No skill set, no training, no real understanding of what I was good at, and promptly in the space of 18 months managed to lose all that money in the dot-com crash, lose my marriage, lose my life, and all my investments and everything else, and ended up moving back in with my parents when I turned 30. So if you can kind of remember the bedroom that you grew up in as a kid and imagine moving back there at the age of 30 and having to, have discussions with your mother about being in by curfew time, it's kind of an interesting one. So let's just say that, from that perspective, it was a learning experience, I think is probably the best way to phrase it. Recovered from that, started another business, got back on my feet inside 2 years, and then obviously went on to join the world's biggest sort of business coaching and training firm, which is where you and I met. Spent 5 years as one of the top coaches in Europe. I set a number of coaching records that I firmly believe still stand to this day in the UK and Europe. I became, I broke 3 major barriers in Europe at that particular time in terms of size of business, growth of business, and was at one point the only European coach to hold 2 global awards back to back. So, I was very proud of that. Not really because I don't say that to impress anybody, because it really, for me, I was driven by my desire to serve and help clients, and the biggest wow I got was when I got recognized for the results I got with clients. So it really wasn't, I didn't do it for the ego stuff, but it was nice to have, and kind of left that after I survived 5 years and graduated with honors and survival stripes, and nearly 3 years ago now went out on my own and really took my blend of heavily mixing, I guess, personal development with business coaching. So for me, it's not, what I deliver is, I like to call it almost inspirational business coaching, because it's mixing a lot of the head stuff with the heart stuff, with the gut stuff, with the strategy, and aligning people around good decision-making processes, aligning their life with their business, and really kind of then taking it from there. So, that's been my journey. I published my first book 2 years ago, which has done very, very well. Made me 6 figures plus, and I can talk about some more of that later if you like. And just recently published my second book, and then 18 months ago decided to franchise my business networking and training community club, and I think we've doubled in size in the last 12 months. And just on the verge of bringing bringing it as a licensed model over to other countries, including Canada and the US. So, my belief is that I want to give access to more business owners, give them access to more great coaching at a local level, and ultimately, bring proven personal development and kind of business strategies that accelerate people's results and put them in the hands of as many business entrepreneurs as we possibly can, because my fundamental belief, Eric, is that entrepreneurs are going to change the world and get us out of the absolutely horrendous mess we've all, the governments have got us into. The entrepreneurs are the answer, and we're becoming disillusioned with society, with big government, with big corporations. We've lost faith in that model, and the reality is that that's a big opportunity for us as experts in that space, because people are looking for people to follow, and they're looking for people to rebuild trust that there is a way forward. And so for me, that's a pretty big thing. So yeah, very excited. That's kind of my life, really. That's what I do right now. I've worked with, I guess now somewhere close to about 110, 112 different industries in 5 years, and worked with some of the biggest brands like Porsche, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Paul Mitchell Hair Products, and some pretty big retailers in Europe. Been blessed to hang out, Eric, with people like, spoken on the stage and worked with people like Michael Gerber and James Kahn from Dragon's Den, and I've taught for free at Peter Jones's Young Entrepreneurs Academy, teaching 16, 17-year-old kids how to go out and start businesses. So I'm very lucky. What we get to do gets to change people's lives. So that's kind of what I've been up to anyway.
Well, it's good, and a really illustrious career in business coaching, as careers in business coaching go. And kudos to you. I mean, really, you've done an amazing thing, and I'm glad you're on the call. Now, let's segue right into this, and as folks have listened to your background, I think there's a lot of reason to listen to your thoughts on this question, which is, what are the top trends that you see impacting the business coaching industry? Not just in 2012, they've probably been impacting us now for a couple of years, but what do people have to pay attention to in 2012? And I know you probably have about 50 trends you could talk about. Let's just pick a few. What are the big ones, and what do people need to be paying attention to?
Okay. I think it's a great question, and I've enjoyed listening to the other calls so far and hearing different people's points of view on this. I suppose for me, the last couple of years now, I think I've really noticed a shift towards really what I would say the blending of 2 or 3 different industries. So the blending of the business coaching space, the information marketing space, and to some extent the professional speaking / publishing space. Really, the kind of the technology is bringing all of those things together, and the reality is that you can't just be a business coach and not be in the information space. You can't be a speaker and not have a coaching program on the back end to sell after you spoke. Not having products is a massive hole in your business if you haven't got products to be able to promote, position, and package you as a proven entity. And I think it's the trend is that this is just going to become more and more and more so, and that if you're not able to deliver value through multiple vehicles, as a coach, consultant, trainer, advisor, speaker, if you're not able to deliver that value through multiple vehicles, and in particularly leverage vehicles, to a very targeted niche, who's going to really get you, I think you're going to struggle. I think the reality is that people don't hear very much anymore the clutter of everybody's a business coach. I mean, I remember going, I'll tell the story. I mean, when I first started going networking in the UK as a business coach, which was nearly 7 years ago, people honestly thought I owned a bus company because they thought I used to own a coaching company that would transport people from point A to point B. There was no comprehension of what a business coach did, why in the world you would ever want to pay one. In fact, one of my first coaching clients, who was with me for 7 years, for the first year that I coached him, he never told anybody in his business who I was. I was this weird guy that arrived once a week on a Monday morning in a black Audi, in a black suit with a white shirt, and wasn't an accountant, but nobody knew what I was. And I got ushered upstairs to his meeting room for an hour and a half. I left. And then all kinds of craziness ensued when this MD probably started changing the business. And nobody knew who I was or what I did. I was just this weird mythical guy that turned up and left, and nobody knew who I was. I mean, God knows what they thought I was doing in there. I really worried. But it was he wouldn't tell anybody. He wouldn't admit to the world that he was having coaching. He was terrified of what he was a big wig. He was a big corporate player, big guy, big entrepreneur in the community, and he was terrified that if he admitted he didn't know it all, that all of his friends and other business owners would rib him about it or give him a really hard time about it. So, he just wouldn't tell anybody. So I couldn't get a referral out of him. I couldn't get a testimonial out of him. I couldn't get a team training alignment day or anything out of him because he wouldn't tell anybody who I was for best part of over a year.
Well, I can understand that, for goodness sake.
Yeah, so that was just kind of like the early days, that was interesting. But I think today there's people are looking for experts now at a level they've never been looking for. I think it's one of the big trends. I think it's happened and it's going to continue to happen and accelerate. And this blend, really almost the creation of a new industry of experts, which is a major play, I think, for the next few years. We're heading towards that, where people are, that the faith has been in big business, big companies has been distorted, and people are looking for people to trust again.
Yeah.
And that's without question, that's happening more and more and more.
Yeah. Now I'm going to say something that I'm going to pay you a compliment here. So I know this is going to stroke your big British ego, but hold it in check just for a minute. I actually got goosebumps that ran up and down my back when you said something a couple minutes ago, and I wrote it down. That the trend you're saying, I think this is actually really important, that the trend that you're seeing is a blending of industries. You said it's business coaching, which we used to understand, in a certain way, combined with information publishing, combined with internet marketing. And what you said was you have to know all three if you want to, I don't know if you said survive, but if you really want to be a serious player in this business, you got to do all three. Now,
yeah, I would actually say if you want to survive, and make a good living and make a difference and make an impact, you're going to need to learn. You're going to need to learn or have a team around you who are able to deliver for you in those areas. Because the reality is that there is a new expert industry forming in the middle of those three. I'm very fortunate. I've had the chance to work one-on-one with people like being mentored by Brendan Burchard and being in his inner circle group, and there is no two ways around it. He's leading the charge with that for sure, but the reality is a global recognition of, do you know what, I'm looking for people who, they're online, I can find them when I want to find them, I can access the material when I need it on demand. If I want to get more close and personal with them, I can. If I want to pick up a product of theirs, I can read the book on the train or in wherever I happen to be, in an airport or an aeroplane. So people want to consume our content in multiple different forms and versions, and us delivering it personally is just one of those forms of content delivery. And I think, and I think when we shift our head, and this has been a shift for me in the last 12 months, 18 months, big time, to think of myself as I am a deliverer of content and value. I'm in the publishing, if you like, business. I'm in the delivery of content business. I'm a business coach. Business coach is just one of the ways I deliver the content.
Such a shift, man. I mean, I agree, and I've gone through that shift myself a few years ago. But what a shift it is, because all of a sudden now, if you're not just a business coach, you're not just setting out to be a technical expert managing, a certain set of protocols and processes that you take into business. You've got to actually be out there creating intellectual property, publishing the stuff, and actually learning how to publish the stuff and get above the fray using the best practice in internet marketing technology. That's a pretty big deal.
Yep, and I think and I think we should be honest with people here and say it isn't an easy transition. I think it's a daunting transition. I found it daunting. Listen, I am still on this journey. Okay, I have by no means got this completely licked in every area. For me, big focus next year is about really upping my game in the internet marketing space. We've done okay in it, but I think we could do a lot better. I've chosen to really kind of focus on, for the last year, developing really great products that have helped me secure, in some cases, six-figure coaching contracts. So, I cannot. I mean, if you go back for a second on the slide, I really would love to be able to convey, but I don't know if I could do it justice. Of saying, I remember being in rooms where people would say, "Do you know what? Go and go and write a book. Okay, it's the best thing you'll ever do for your business." And as a dyslexic person, that was a real challenging thing to even consider undertaking. It was a major confrontation with me with a part of my life that I had tried to avoid, if you like. And I did, and I have. And the question I get frequently asked is, did I write every word in the book? And the answer is yes, I did. Right, I wrote I didn't outsource it. I didn't get a copywriter to do it. I didn't dictate it. I physically wrote every single word in my first book. And the distinction I would give everybody, because it was for me, it was literally $1 million distinction. I got a book coach. And again, when I got a book coach, I went out and found somebody who had been paid $1 million for their first self-published book and an advance of over $1 million for their second one. So I went and found somebody who knew what they were talking about. And I was on the I'd bought into this kind of story of just get a book out there because it's the best business card you'll ever have, right? And we've all heard that stuff. Get a book, it's the best business card you can ever have, right? Yeah. And I would challenge that assumption and say I actually think it's wrong, fundamentally wrong. Okay, it isn't a business card. If you think that, you're massively devaluing what it is. Okay, it's a part of your soul. It's a part of your philosophy. It's a part of you. And if you dismiss it as a business card with the same value as a business card, which is literally cents, isn't it, in terms of what it costs to get it printed, you're missing the value opportunity. And here's the thing: the first book you publish, you want to make sure it's absolutely stellar content that you would be proud to stand behind for 10 years. Because if you just push out a book for speed and so-called positioning, but it's poorly put together, poorly marketed, poorly laid out, poorly designed, then the reality is what happens is the market gets to read that and doesn't ever buy your second book or your third book, or doesn't ever come to you for coaching or advice or consulting. So when you're moving into this blended expert space, somebody trademarked that, it sounded quite good, but when you're moving into this blended expert space, take it slow but get it right. Create products that you would be really, really proud of. Don't just create and push stuff out to the market because you're trying to tick that box, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally true. So take us through this journey, because what you said a few moments ago. You said, look, we got to be honest, it's not easy. And look, some people probably came into the business coaching space not aware that they needed to do this.
True.
One of the things that you might have heard, I don't know if you were on the call yesterday with Spike Humor, but one of the things you said is the proliferation of information over the last couple of decades has gotten so crazy.
Yes.
That you've got to really work to get your information out and really be heard. Okay, so most people come into the business coaching space and certainly probably don't even realize that if you want to be heard and if you want to be taken seriously, you've got to publish, you've got to promote, and wow, what a wake-up call, right? And I know it was a wake-up call for me when I realized it. So walk us through it. I mean, okay, so the book, Business SOS, I remember when I saw that site, I actually ordered your book. You shipped it from the UK. It came on time. I thought, yeah, it's clever. The guy can ship the book anywhere in the world. It was real nice. What happened after the book? Take us through your evolution, if you will.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, it wasn't the first book I started writing. So I actually started writing a book called Turbo Business, which is still on my hard drive and is 2/3 finished and hasn't been published yet. But I remember being at an event, and I was an event speaking. I was speaking. Laura Langemeyer was speaking. I was speaking, and a couple of other people were speaking from the US. I can't remember who. Keith Cunningham was over. So and we were all on stage at this wealth creation event in London. That literally the week that the world pretty much came off the rails. It was November, if you remember, right?
Yeah.
And the world came off the rails for me personally at that particular point in time, because not only did the economy crash, my life literally crashed when my mother died of cancer. So, and it was all pretty much in the same 10-day period. So I remember being at that event, and every single speaker on stage who was used to converting fairly highly off stage, everybody tanked. I mean, I did, Laurel did, Keith Cunningham didn't sell anything, if I remember rightly, or sold one product. Everybody nobody was buying. And I suddenly thought, do you know what? I need to write a book about survival, because for the next year, once we go into recession, the book needs to be about how to survive, how to get through. So I literally documented everything I was doing with my one-to-one private clients during the daytime, everything that was working, everything that we tested and measured and was working, and I documented it into a book and wrote it. Wrote every day for 2 hours a day every morning. I would get up and write in the morning for an hour, and then at night I would then consolidate my notes from that day's coaching session, and what had worked, what was good, and put it into a format that I would want to read. I mean, my style is, Eric, has always been I've coached people the way I would want to be coached, and then some people that works and some people it doesn't, and if it works for you, then we tend to stick around and work together for a long time, and if it doesn't, then I'm not the guy for you, and that's fine.
Yep.
And I wrote the book in the same way. How would I want to consume the content? Because, do you know the emails that I get that make me the happiest? And it's not the ones that say I use your strategy, and I've had stuff like this. I use your strategy Sunday afternoon in the book and this page, and I made £10,000. Thank you very much. And I go, great, that's cool. the ones that really light me up are the ones where people email me and say, do you know what, yours is the first business book I've actually read all the way to the end.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, because what that says to me is I did my job right, and and it's not. And I agree with what Spike was saying yesterday when he was saying, yeah, the proliferation of content is everywhere. The distinction I would give is the proliferation of good content is rare. Okay, good content is rare as a difference, and secondly, getting people to see the content and getting them to consume the content are two different things.
Yeah.
So with a book, it's not just writing a good book, right? It's laying out a good book. It's designing a good book. It's overcoming the 3 resistant sales points in any book that you have to overcome as an author that I didn't know about and didn't understand. And it's knowing how to construct your book so that your market will buy the book, but not just buy the book. They'll buy your philosophy in the book, and they'll buy into you and then want to go on and do other things. So, if you put really great content in the book will sell you when you're not in the room.
So true.
That's what you've got to do, right? That's the job. You want to have products and assets that ultimately, will sell you when you're not in the room. Because that's the only way you can grow your business, if you create assets that do as good a job at promoting you as you do when you're there.
Yeah. And it's absolutely life-transforming when you as a coach do that, isn't it? Because people consume your book, and when they call you to speak to you, they already know everything about you, and they that they need to know, and they're ready to do more. Right? I mean, it's an amazing.
I'd give you a couple of examples, if I may, for people, just to show. Because again, I didn't understand how much the game would change when I wrote the book. Right? I didn't understand. I honestly didn't have a clue, and I was shocked by it. I remember going networking and giving somebody a copy, and the guy I was giving it to was a multimillionaire, like wearing very expensive watches and jewelry and everything, and I gave him a copy of my book and signed it for him, and he held it like he was holding a bar of gold, and it was a real kind of wow moment for me, like, holy, he thinks this is really kind of wow, okay, and it was, and he was like, well, can I get a photo with you with the book? And I'm like, okay, and it was this weird kind of experience, like, this is just me, right? I'm just this little short English guy with, quite a big personality, but not a lot of height and stature. But okay, we can do that. I was very surprised by how seriously people took the book, because you live with it for such a long period. I mean, I wrote that book in 3 months or so, but the reality was it changed. Can I give a couple of tips? Would that be all right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Look, let me give a couple of really powerful tips that I've learned on the journey. I've self-published both of my books. Reasons being speed to get it out and control, because if you want a publishing deal, ultimately you're going to wait 18 months for the book to be published. I have another book in discussion with publishers, but these ones I wanted to get out and get done quickly, right? So, self-publishing, there are real benefits, in my opinion, to controlling it, and the costs are incredibly low, and you can do print on demand, so you just print what you need. So that takes away all the barriers to entry for that whole model, right? Here's the tip I got given from this is $1 million book tip right now from my book coach, right? The first thing you should do before you write a word of content, okay, is get the book cover designed.
Wow.
Okay? So you want to get the book cover designed for a number of reasons. Number one, once you have the book cover designed, it will be real for you writing it.
Wow.
Point one, right? So you'll stick it on the wall, look at it, and it's real. Number two, stick it on your website with an opt-in underneath saying, coming soon, get pre-released chapters of my book before it comes. Start building the list. Okay? Right? Plus, it creates pressure on you to get the book written because it's now out in public.
Yep.
Right? And thirdly, when you do this, and this is something I've it was a literally, you have those meetings, Eric, where you sit down and you think, I'm so glad that somebody somewhere bigger, brighter, smarter than me has a plan that saved me from making a huge mistake right now. You know those kind of moments?
Yeah.
I had done the traditional self-published thing, and I had recruited a book designer on Elance, and I'd spent $1,000 with them and stuff, and they'd created a book, and it looked like pretty much every other self-published book out there and whatever. And then this guy comes to see me on Friday before we were about to go to print on the book, and he is a book designer and a high-level graphics consultant. And he comes to me for advice on, coaching. And I said to him, look, while you're sat in my office, would you take a look at my book just before I go to print on it? He said, please do me a favor, don't print this book. I said, what do you mean don't? He said, I'm sure the content's great, but the design is going to kill you. It looks like every other self-published book out there. Give me a week, and I'll do my stuff on it, and you tell me what you think. And he came back with me, and I just went, this is a no-brainer. I mean, it looks elegant, it looks gorgeous, it looks clean, it doesn't look like a self-published book, which is feedback I get quite a lot. And so, for me, here's a piece of advice for everybody on this call, listening to this call. Spend more than you feel comfortable with getting your product designed. Spend more. Yes, right? Yes. Yeah. Think about Apple for a minute. We all love the Apple business. We love what it's done. But think about Apple. They spend an exceedingly ridiculous amount of money on packaging. I mean, ask yourself, if you bought a Mac, and I know you have, and I have, we probably still keep the packaging because it looks so cool, right?
That's true.
Right? I said this at a seminar the other day, and some guy at the back of the room started waving violently, and I went, you have something to say? He says, I've got boxes going back 15 years from all the Apple product I bought. They're just too good to throw away. And it's like... But they don't have to do that, right? You've already bought the product. Why do they do that? They do that because they realize that the experience is about not just buying the product, it's unwrapping the product, it's touching it, feeling it, looking at it, it's everything, right? And therefore spend more on design than you think you should. Spend more than you probably can justify at the time, because I couldn't justify spending what I spent on my first book. But I tell you this, it's the best decision I've made in a long, long time. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? So I recently picked up a coaching contract for 6 months. Mastermind, this is another big trend, by the way. Masterminds are becoming bigger and bigger, and they're going to go more and more that way, right? So group coaching type delivery models, I think, are set to be even bigger next year than they are right now.
Yeah.
So I just picked up a coaching client, and this isn't to brag. I just want to show the power of this, right? So while I was on holiday, I got a coaching client who signed up for an agreement for 10 of his distributors, I think it is, for 6 months. It's a mastermind program. It's about $120,000. I've never, ever met them.
Yeah. $120,000 contract, never met the man. Yep.
Okay, and get this. He was in, apparently he already was looking at another business coach, and a friend of mine who knew him said, listen, before you look at another business coach, read Paul's book. Gave him a copy of my book, rang me and said, send me another 3 copies. I want to give the other directors a copy. I said, okay. I gave 4 copies of my book. So what's the cost of sale there, right? Maximum, let's just say $40. Let's be really, really pessimistic, right? $40, okay? And then he went online and watched a bunch of training videos that I have online. And he watched those and rang my office. We did a phone call, negotiated the deal on Skype. Done. Contract done.
It's so true. Now I want to say something to encourage folk. I mean, man, dude, Paul, all day, every day, all week, every week, except for the 3.5 months this year that I was not in my office. But I mean, other than those times, I'm talking to coaches, right? That's what I do. That's my job, the coach's coach. I talk to coaches. I look at websites. I look at this all the time. I got to tell you, 90% of this, 95% of the websites and books and other things I see just look absolutely horrible. They do. They look like completely amateurish. So one of the easiest things that you can do is just make it look good. I mean, really make it look good and make sure the content is good. But here's the deal. That having been said, I've seen guys go out and put some really good-looking covers on, like the ones that you've got here, and some really, I'm going to say, decent content, right? Like great-looking covers, decent content, and it blows people away. It blows people away. It's not as hard as you might think. And like some of this comes down to the packaging, yes, but I always tell coaches, you've got really, really good content living inside of you, right? And a lot of the guys that come to us want to get started in coaching, they have really illustrious careers. I mean, really impressive stuff, like you've got a really good background, Paul. And I always tell people, you will be amazed at how much really good content you have living inside of you if you just take the time to get it into a book and then, like you say, just wrap it up in absolute beauty. You just can't believe how easy it is to make the sales. Am I right? Is that what you're saying?
I think, yeah. I mean, thank you very much. I don't feel. I want to be honest. I don't feel like I've had a particularly illustrious career. I feel like I just. And I'm not. I'm saying that because for me, Here's the thing. I ask a question a lot at seminars, and I'll say, how many of you have got to this point of your life and honestly, genuinely thought you would be further ahead than you are right now?
Mm.
And pretty much every business owner in the room, or every coach you ever probably ask, would say the same thing. I thought I'd be further ahead than I am right now. And that's just because whenever we get up the mountain, we see the next viewpoint and go,
Man.
do you know what? I think I want to be up there now. And, you know, the reality is, you know, the first book for me was born out of two things. One, it was a way of me dealing with the sheer energy generated. You know, I had all this energy, and I suppose it was probably anger and disappointment and everything with my mum passing away. So I had this kind of immense amount of energy I needed to channel somewhere. So I channeled it into the book because it gave me a focus point rather than trying to, you know, in all honesty, deal with the reality of what was going on. And at the same time, had this passion to kind of get out and give people hope during the middle of the first recession. So for me, that was a book that was created out of a multiple number of reasons, but it was a frenetic energy. But the second book, you know, the one that's just come out, and I think this is another big trend, and I want to link it to another big trend, which is what you asked me to talk about. Yeah. You know, for me, it's not enough now just to stand on your own. You have to stand with giants in the industry. Okay, and this is a massive positioning strategy that any one of you can do, and I'll give you some stuff that will blow everyone away because it really shocked me, right? So the second book, you know, Secrets of the Wealth Accelerators, is a book with me teaming up with lots of really great people. You know, I couldn't get to you because you were on holiday at the time, so we'll get you in the second version. But you know, I got to everybody in my network who we've got the best-selling author from Australia is in the book. We've got some of the top guys in the UK. One of the top, the guy Harvard goes to teach Facebook marketing is in this book, right? Mm-hmm. They use him to create the course for their students, right? Yeah. And he teaches and lectures all over the world. He's in there because he's, you know, he's a friend of mine. And I went to everybody in this book and said, listen, I'm really sick and tired of the economy and everybody talking about the fact that you can't make money. I want you to give me pure content, real good content, and I want you to write a chapter for this book, and it will become one of the best joint venture things we've ever done. Because if there's 33 of us running around promoting this book where we've each put a value-first content chapter in there, right? It's not one of those typical pitch books. You know those books, Eric, where you read it and you're desperately trying to find a nugget of information in there, and all it is here's a link to go download this, and here's a link to go download that. And do you know what? I said I'm banning all of that kind of stuff. There's a resources box at the end for people who want to find out more about you, but you only get that box if you give us really great content first, or you don't get the resources box, right? Yep. Here's the thing, okay? And I was blown away by this. So I went to 35 people, and I said, you've got 7 days to write the chapter and get it to me.
Nice.
Right? So yes, you've got 7. Now, these are really busy people, okay? Now, with the exception of yourself and one other person who was not available or around at the time, but, you know, outside of that, everybody else said, yep, sure, no problem, and they got it done in 7 days. That book took 4 weeks to pull together from decision, and that's the important thing, from decision to do it, to getting the designer done, to getting the first draft with the proofreader before it went to press. It took 4 weeks. So everyone on this call right now, if they made a decision to really take their business to the next level in the next year, could decide right now to create a book or a tips booklet or a CD course or a DVD course or whatever it happens to be, they could do it, and they could do it within 4 weeks if they really focused their energy.
It's really true. I mean, I was surprised how easy it was to pull a book together. I really am, and I know I've done a whole bunch of them. Look, folks, you can do it. You really, really can. I mean, I can almost hear a bunch of people, you know, thinking I can't do this. No, actually, you really can. Right, Paul? I mean, you thought you couldn't do it.
Yeah. Hey, listen. If I'm a dyslexic guy who struggles to, you know, put sentences together quite often in the right order when I'm writing them, if I can figure out a way to write 2 books, or, you know, 1 book and pull, you know, do what I did. Listen, if you don't want to write the whole book, just write a couple of chapters and then get, you know, some great people to contribute to the book. You know, it doesn't have to be all you if that's a real phobia for you. And you know, it was amazing to me that people, I was asking these people who have been around the industry for ages, Eric, and I still think sometimes I'm like this little kid, so I'm like ringing these people up going, would you mind putting a chapter in the book? And they're like, oh wow, I'm really flattered you asked. I'm like, really? Okay, cool, great, yeah, well, thanks. And it was like, I was like, wow, you know, blimey, Peter Thompson wants to write a chapter for the book. So then I got cheeky and I basically said to them, hey, look, you know, would you record a testimonial video for your chapter? come from a place of service. But go back to the trend, because I think this is really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's considering working with us as coaches, consultants, trainers, right, they're going to do a number of things. They're going to want to probably meet us online, or they're going to want to meet us face-to-face, or unless they're going to at least get your product first and check you out. If the product's really great quality and, the things they find about you online. So LinkedIn being another great example, how many testimonials have you got on LinkedIn?
I don't know.
How up-to-date is your...
15 to 20, right? Yes.
Right. Okay, I'm a 65.
Ah, man, you're beating me. Okay.
No, but here's the thing. Because I make a point of actually having my team, after every coaching session or new client, when I do a new coaching client or I do a speaking gig or something, I have someone in my team who follows up and says, can we ask you for a testimonial on LinkedIn? I mean, and that's not me being massively clever or, Eric, I'm one of the least systemized guys in the world, right? I mean, you and I regularly laugh about that, right? You have systems, that I just look at in envy, frankly, and that's not my style. But the point is, think about stuff like that. Honestly, the guy that bought the agreement with me, the 120,000 coaching contract, apart from the book, which was one of the key decision-making points, book was one, Skype call with me was another, but when he came onto the Skype call with me, he said, do you know what, I said, do you need any more information about me? He said, I've read your book and I've read your testimonials on LinkedIn. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested in that. You're in. We just need to negotiate the price.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So, in terms of circumventing that whole decision-making process, it took months out of the decision-making process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you're talking about this because I was just thinking about this a minute ago. Listen, folks, to what Paul just said. For those who just got into business coaching, didn't want to have to sell, right? Paul, look, you remember the days that we used to fly around and drive around the UK selling business coaching? How hard was the selling back then compared to what you're doing right now?
I don't sell now. I interview people to see if I want to work with them.
But that's only because they've already consumed all your content that you've published, and they are believing in you and your message. They're already wanting to buy when they call up. It's just details at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, if somebody says, they ring up and they haven't read my book or something, I'll say, right, okay, listen, here's the thing. I'll send you a copy of my book. Or frankly, better, you should actually go participate in your own rescue and go on Amazon and buy it. And then when you've read it, ring me back. And if what I've said in the book makes a lot of sense to you, and by the time they're ringing me back, they go, do you know what, I read your book, use 3 things from the book, and I've already made money. I don't have to prove now that my stuff works, right? I've already done the proof remotely. Yeah. So it's just, and it's leverage, right? And it's putting deselection barriers in the way. You know what? If you haven't watched this or read this book, then you don't qualify to work with me yet. So because you're not serious enough. So I only work with serious people, and you're clearly not that. So
absolutely. Okay. So we started this whole thing.
Can I ask something? Would that be all right? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can we ask the audience? Is what I'm telling them valuable? Because actually, my goal on this is to deliver value, and kind of obviously not being in a room, you can't. Can we just check in with everyone for a minute? And is this kind of giving them what they want?
Well, yeah. Let's just say, folks, go ahead and post any questions you've got or any comments or anything else that you want to share. People are not leaving the call, Paul. So I mean,
that's always a good sign.
And it's a bit of a surprise, given the British whatever humor. But okay. But what you said at the beginning was three things being combined here: business coaching, internet marketing, information publishing. If you're going to thrive in this business, you've got to know all 3. We've talked a lot about information publishing, and I'm showing on the screen right now some of the other stuff you did.
Can I tell this story about niche, because I think it's really important?
Well, I want to. Yes, absolutely.
I was hoping frame it up then.
Look, Paul and I. Yeah, look, Paul's a great believer in everything we've talked about here at the Coaches Coach for the last couple of years. Really, you got to niche yourself out. We heard Taki talking about it. We heard Spike Humor talking about it yesterday. You got to choose your niche. You got to focus down so that your content becomes stunningly relevant because you're so specific in your focus, right? So there we go. So how did you? Just tell us how you shifted over to that, and then how you, I guess, published to meet your niche.
Okay, so I'll be very honest and say I got into this particular niche by accident. Actually, it wasn't strategic. Would love to be able to say it was.
Was that a pun by accident?
Yeah. Clearly, obviously, I was driven to get into this niche. I know. It was an accident in that it wasn't really strategically thought out. I wish I could take credit for that, but it wasn't. The reality was, I did a seminar, and this is a great lesson in itself, right? I did a seminar, and I spent a lot of money marketing it, and 2 people turned up. So ask yourself the question, if that was you, what would you do? Would you A, cancel it, B, deliver the best content you've ever done, like your life depended on it, even though only 2 people sat through an event for 2 hours? Or would you have cancelled it and said, hey, listen, I suck at seminar marketing, why don't you just have a one-to-one with me, right? And they're your options. Now, the easy option is to go, listen, clearly I bombed at seminar marketing, so I tell you what, why don't I do a one-to-one with you? My answer was, do you know what, you turn to pay up for a seminar, so you're going to get a seminar, whether there's 1 or 2 of you. I delivered a 2-hour seminar. One of those people became a client of mine, and they owned a publishing book magazine in the motor industry.
Nice.
Okay. Now I coached them for 2 years, during which time they paid me very well for that privilege, which was great. But they offered me an opportunity to go and speak at one of their annual conferences. Now, I don't know about you, Eric, but if anybody says to me, can you come and speak for free? And I say, who's in the room? And they say, 900 business owners. I'll say, absolutely, that's really not an issue. How long do I get? Hopefully getting an hour. And they said, you get 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm like, I get 10 minutes. And I'm like, yeah. I said, how long do you want me there? They said, oh, we need you there for at least a whole day because we don't know exactly when we'll call on you, but you'll get about 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, hey, look, I believe in go anyway and serve, right? Because if I get on stage for 10 minutes, I'm good enough. I reckon that's good enough for me, right? So anyway, so get on stage for 10 minutes at one point, and I remember the question that they asked me, they were talking about training and development, and they said, what do you say to people who say it's a waste of time training your staff because they just leave anyway? And I thought about this, and I thought, I've got 10 minutes. I might as well say something kind of challenging to the audience. I said, well, my question to the person asking that would be, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Nice.
To which this person sort of reeled back and went, okay, you need to explain that a bit more. And I went into a bit more around that. And I got more than 10 minutes, right? I got, I don't know, 15 or something like that, right? And that was it. But here's the power of this thing. You never know who sat in the room. So there was a guy sat in the room who saw me, and he had a vision for creating a mastermind program for the industry, and he needed somebody to deliver it, to front it up. And he saw me on stage for that 10, 15 minutes and said, I think Paul's the guy I need to get in touch with.
Yeah.
So we started a dialogue, and it took 2 years to put it together. And we went specifically into the body shop with the body auto repair industry, right? So the first thing we did was go and speak at a major manufacturers conference. So I went and keynoted the conference for Volkswagen, not because strategically I wanted to raise my profile in that industry. I did it. In fact, the product on the right that you're looking at here, the Turbo Marketing, is a recording of that seminar. So I actually went to them, and I took it. I did the gig for a lot less than I would normally do, but I said I'll do it on the grounds that I get the rights to the content and I can market the content. Okay?
Beautiful.
So I got paid to create my first product. That was actually my second product, right? Before the book and everything. But what that did was it allowed me to use it in mailing campaigns and things to people in the motor industry, right? Because and I decided, Eric, to brand myself as the Turbo Business Coach because I thought, do you know what? If I'm going to go into the motor industry, they'll all relate to that. So everything kind of hangs together. So there's the fast start success system. There's the the turbo profit system. Everything kind of there's the 6 gears to this, and there's the 6 gear selling system. So it all kind of hangs together as a model and a framework, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the long and short of it was, it took 2 years to put together, and I would say to anybody who's looking to do a major strategic alliance, it can take time. Give it time. It took 2 years to mature. When it matured, the contract value year 1 was over $250,000.
Nice.
For less than 20 days delivery for $250,000.
Yeah. Now let me interrupt just because we're getting a question. I think it's a good question. Is a niche a specific business sector, or do you mean something else?
Are you asking me what my definition is?
Yeah, go ahead.
My definition would probably be that I think it's it's something that's fairly narrow but very deep. Okay, so you may choose to take an industry-specific niche, or you may choose to take a geographic niche. So, for example, the business wealth clubs that I run, that my club in Oxford is very, very specific niche market. It's businesses within 15 to 20 minutes of the venue where we hold it. It's very niched around people within there are 10,000 businesses or whatever within that sector. That's that niche for that product. That product has a niche. It's designed for business owners of between 250,000 revenue and 750,000 revenue, and within half an hour of that location. That's a pretty tight niche, right?
I mean, look, here would be my comment to that question. If you look at Paul as a case study, I mean, Paul's journey has been kind of like the ultimate journey that you could wish for as a business coach. Let me explain. So Paul starts out on his own. He's running this business wealth club, getting all these local businesses in there, and just kind of doing his thing, kind of coaching any business that had a pulse, fluttering eyelids and could write him a check or whatever. But eventually he found himself into a niche, and then he productized, and he's gone really deep into this niche and really billing out very, very well. But at the same time, you're still doing all your business wealth clubs, and so there's a pile of leads there. I mean, if you had 10 lifetimes to live, you could build 10 more niches just like this one because you never stopped the business wealth club, which is your funnel, right?
Well, here's an interesting thing. The Business Wealth Club has helped convert corporate clients who've come along, seen me live on stage, and felt very safe in hiring me to do other things. So as a lead generation source and a conversion tool, it's brilliant, because one of the frustrations as a speaker, as a trainer, as a consultant, is that we actually don't get to be on stage very often and demonstrate what we do. Well, I'm on stage twice a month in front of a very friendly audience who enjoy what we do, and therefore when I bring, if somebody wants to hire me for a keynote, I'll say, listen, don't hire me, come down, spend 2 hours with me over breakfast and see me perform. If after that you think I'm a good fit, let's talk. So for me, it's again another leverage conversion tool. But I think, listen, I just want to kind of almost give everybody on the call a slightly different take, because I'm a bit uncomfortable with a couple of things you said there, if I may.
You're not allowed to disagree with me. What are you talking
about? No, I am going to, okay, because I think we all like the story of, it's the perfect journey of a business coach and all that. Do you know what? The truth is it wasn't, all right? I've been nearly broke twice trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
At one point I owed over £80,000 on credit cards when I was really struggling and got myself into a right old mess. I tried to build a firm of business coaches, and didn't understand that I really am lousy at managing people and coaches, and I'm actually better at creating products and inspiring audiences to buy, and nearly went broke doing that, and that was really horrific. Nearly lost my house when my son was about to be born. My wife's in labour and I'm fighting to pay the mortgage, and the reality is this is a 7-year journey to get to where I've got to.
Yeah.
And it's also, for me, the distinction of understanding where we create real value and doing more of that and less of everything else. If you don't want to do internet marketing, if your brain isn't systematic, if that's not your thing, hire somebody to do it for you, outsource it to somebody, give it to joint venture with somebody and take a revenue share. Don't force yourself to learn all 3 of those areas. Understand you need all 3 of them covered in your business, but understand that your skill is to know which one you're great at, and do more of that and leverage the other pieces out as much as is humanly possible.
Yeah, that's such a good thing. And I'm not going to disagree with you. It was messy, and I've had my messes too along the way. The thing of it that we want the coaches to know, though, is the beauty of what has happened for you is that you found your way into a niche almost extemporaneously.
Do you know? Can I say there's a phrase, and I must write a book called this because I think it's true. Here's the thing. No matter what was going on, there's one mantra I always had. Well, there's 2 actually. One was Tony Robbins: if you want massive results, take massive action. But the other thing, do you know what? I just believe that if you stay in the game long enough, you figure it out, or you get lucky. Stay in the game. So, there've been times when every part of me has wanted to think about quitting the game, but you know what? There's nothing else, honestly, out there I would rather be doing. And I've gone and looked, Eric. There've been times in my career when I've gone and looked and gone, do you know what? I really need to go and see if this is what I want to do for the next 5 years of my life. And the reality is, I don't want this. There is nothing else I'd rather do than this. So, do you know what? I have no choice but to stay in the game and figure it out. And here's the thing, look, I had a fantastic. I've got myself into the motor industry and stuff. Do you know what? There's a really cool tool I'd like to share with everybody just before we finish. This really shifted me a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Sullivan, strategic coach stuff and all that. I mean, really, I got to meet him when I was over in America recently. Really interesting. But one of the things that he talks about, which I think is a really interesting thing, is to list out your 5 biggest deals in 2011. Right? Everyone on the call might want to do this. What were the 5 biggest coaching clients you had in 2011, or 5 biggest contracts, right?
Good.
And what was the average? Okay? And look at that and ask yourself the question, how easy were those clients to work with and how easy were they to get compared to all the other clients you might have worked with in the last 12 months? Now, here's the really interesting question. I asked my team this today, and we had a really great brainstorming session about this. What do you want the average of that number to be next year? right? So if you take your 5 biggest deals that you did this year, what do you want the number to be next year, and what kind of products, services, or programs are you going to need to create that's going to allow you to raise your average order value to that level? Now that is a piece of work worth doing over Christmas.
Yeah.
Because do you know what it made? It just made me realize that, you know, having had great success in the motor industry, I really haven't exploited it as much as I could have done. And you know, next year I'm going to go back and really work that industry, because actually I've kind of been distracted away from it and kind of focus on other things. And actually, it was one of the most lucrative niches I've found in the last 7 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you've got that, and you're busy building a global franchise at the same time. So I think you could probably be forgiven for all that.
Yeah, but I mean, I hope that serves people, because for me it just was a really great question when, you know, when I got asked that, what are your 5 biggest deals this year, and what do you want that number to be next year if you want to get to where you want to go? And just, you know, how do you create products that you can charge $100,000 for? Create a program that you can charge $100,000, because if you don't have the program, no one's going to buy it.
Yeah. So let me do something, because let me do something. We've got a few minutes, and we just got another question. I think he's saying, can you repeat those 5 questions? But let me do this a little differently, okay? Because we've got a few minutes left. We're having this massive, mind-blowing week of these expert interviews. I mean, everyone's blowing my mind, and I know these guys. We're all friends, right? But I'm loving what you guys are sharing. So everybody who's digesting these calls gets to go away the next couple of weeks over the holidays, digest all this, and put together a strategic plan, right? But let's. Can you give people, Paul, like a bulleted list? If you believe in what Paul is saying, and you know you need to do this in your business, you need to combine business coaching, information publishing, and internet marketing to get it out there, and you know you want to take some steps that are very practical this coming year. Paul, can you give a list of 2, 3, 4, or 5 things, and make them practical, man, just really, really practical?
What that they should do? Yeah.
What should they be doing when they hit the ground January 2 or 3? Yeah, just 3, 4 things. Yeah.
Okay. Decide on where your absolute core passion is, what market turns you on, which clients light you up, who do you love working with, and decide what the minimum amount is you're prepared to work with anybody for next year. Decide that first, right? Then create content that will inspire, excite, and solve problems for that market, whether that's an ebook, a tips booklet, a CD program, an online training sequence, videos, whatever. Create some content. I mean, honestly, the best thing you could do is to sit down and structure a book. 10 chapters. Intro chapter, exit chapter, and then 8 chapters, or, you know, intro chapter, 8 chapters of content. What are your 8 strategies that you love to teach? Put them into a book. There's your book pretty much mapped out, right? Each one has a case study. Each one has a client story, or whatever you put in there. So, you know, sit down and work out your core content, stuff that you would love to teach people that you can't afford to work with you, or don't have the time, or you can't travel to. You know, what do you wish they knew that you knew? Okay, so create that. I think that's really important. Commit to really kind of figuring out how you're going to fulfill in each of those areas. Yeah.
All right. So I'm kind of going above and beyond here, and we're getting really.
You're typing for me, bless you.
Yeah, so, okay, so here's what I got. Choose your people. Like, we're creating intellectual property on the fly. Okay, hold on to your seat belts, folks. Sorry, Paul, I had to get to that. Choose your people. I didn't know
this question was coming.
Create some content. Structure a book. What was the next one?
Raise your profile.
What does that mean practically?
Practically, it means, you know, commit to getting found by that niche. So, you know,
so you got to get online, right? You got to get online.
Yeah, get online. Raise your profile. Build a list. I suppose is probably, you know, and for me, raise your profile, because I think once you get your profile, you get people found. So, you know, and that means you raise your profile on LinkedIn. You know, if you search on business coach, I come up on page 1 globally on LinkedIn, right? So if you're looking for a business coach, I'm already in the game just because of that. Okay, so, you know, raise your profile in the places where people look for what you do and who you are. You know, do that with, you know, that. Can I just add one other, which I would say is,
of course. We got room for one more on the slide here, buddy. So go ahead.
To me, choose your market, choose your people, choose your niche, right? Create not just some content. Create powerful content, great content. Create great content that's going to wow everybody, right? Structure and publish a book would be one of my tips for next year. It will change your business, right? Structure and publish your book. Okay, even if it's just an ebook, publish something next
Thank
year,
you.
right?
Yes, something.
Raise your
Ebooks are
profile.
even easier, right? No excuse
Yep.
for not publishing at least an ebook, right? My first few books were ebooks. Go. Okay. Go.
Right. Raise your profile online, big time, and build a community.
Nice.
Because
nice.
I think that for me is the missing piece, right? We aren't just coaches; we're custodians of a community.
Nice. Yeah, very nicely said.
Okay, so what community do you want to foster, build, and be custodian of, and build it. Build the community, whether it's online or offline.
Yeah, I was going to say that community can be online, like me at the Coach's Coach. Look,
yep.
I've got, I don't know, 20 some odd, whatever people that I coach. I've met 1 out of the 20 or 2 out of the 20 face-to-face ever, something like that, 2 or 3. I mean, last week I was down in Texas, down in Oklahoma, and I had a guy from Roger, who's on the call from Oklahoma, and
Hi, Roger.
My buddy from Texas came up. I met these 2 guys for the first time ever, right? Anyway, it can be a virtual community online, or like Paul's doing, it can be a community in the community, right? Like you're doing with your business wealth clubs.
Yeah, I mean that's one community. A niche can be a community within a niche. You could do we think of yourself as a custodian of that community because it changes how you interact with it.
Or yeah, if you've got a bit of a religious background, you've got a parish to look after, right, Paul? Yeah, you've got your parish.
yeah, that would work with you. Yeah, clearly. Yeah, okay. I could see how you would gravitate in that direction.
So Paul's got his auto parish, right? So there we go.
Yeah, they're the only community I know that gets excited when it snows because they make more money because more people crash. But that's another world altogether.
This has been such good stuff. Wow, this has been great stuff. Okay, well, we've got this down, and we are going to be publishing these interviews on our blog because we're just getting people saying, please let me see them, and I can't make it, and all that good stuff. So you should have a chance to see this that way. But Paul, man, this has just been awesome, and you've served and poured yourself out. If people want to find you online, opt into your list so they can watch a master at work doing this stuff. Where do they find you, man?
Well, I mean, I'm fairly easy to. If you could flick back to the books thing, I want to do something a bit cool, if that's all right, for a second.
Cool is good.
I'm gonna do something. I believe in giving value, and I want to reward everybody for sitting through and putting up with the British accent for a whole hour. And I think that's only fair.
I think that is very fair. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. I like that. So if they go to thebusinesswealthclub.com, if they go to thebusinesswealthclub.com and opt in there, I'll send them my entire first book, all of it, the whole thing on as an ebook, right? They'll get the whole thing, PDF, whole lot, all 173 of my best coaching strategies, the whole lot, all right? If they go there, if they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's The Business Wealth Club, so www.thebusinesswealthclub.com. If you go there, the great thing about my name is it's fairly unusual. There aren't many Avinses in the world, which is quite cool. So if you want to find me, search me on Facebook, LinkedIn. Love to hear from you. Let me know what I can do to serve and support you. So yeah, it's thebusinesswealthclub.com, Eric.
The Business Wealth Club.
So there is only one. So if you go there, you can grab my whole of my first book. Absolutely, it's yours. My gift to you. Love to hear about how it helps you and serves you. That'd be fantastic. You can find me at paulavins.com, or if you feel so inclined and you want to buy my latest book from Amazon, if you buy it and go to secretsofthewealthaccelerators.com as per the title, and put your Amazon order number in there, I will give you access to 3 hours of online video training for free.
And they're good. They're good training. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they are, because it's me live for an hour talking about joint ventures. So that's one of them. And then we got social media and a couple of other things. So
yeah,
if either one, all right.
It's good. It's good. Hey, we've gone over, folks. Listen, have a great rest of the day. Tomorrow, Darren Sherlaw from Sherlaw's Business Coaching. He's actually going to be talking about the economy. Actually, he's an economist, a stock trader, the whole thing, a financial manager. He used to manage billions in equity, right? He's going to be actually prognosticating what's going to happen in the economy in 2012. It's going to be very fun. So
he is very, very good.
Yeah, he is. Hope to see you all then. Paul, thanks again. You're amazing. And that's all. Bye for now.
Pleasure. Take care. Thanks, Eric.
Cheers.